Welcome to another edition of our Crowdcast for Spring Coaches Calls 2020 season. We have Dan Manson here with us, Commissioner of the National Cyber League, and hopefully we'll be joined by a couple of the coaches that we have planned. For right now, we'd like to go ahead and introduce the topic of this, which is going to be coaching individuals versus teams. Did you get a chance to kind of talk with any of the coaches between last week and this week about that?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
You're asking me. Actually not, but I can tell you that teams, for a lot of people, are the time to have fun, and individual games are when you can stress more, but it really is on an individual. So it's important for students to play both. I'm actually presenting to a high school tomorrow that does a lot in Cyber Patriot, and the students there are reluctant to play an individual game. So I'll be learning the lessons today and applying them when I talk tomorrow, that it is okay to play as an individual. It is important to play as an individual, and no matter what you do in an organization, there'll be times where you have to work as an individual. However, saying that, it is just as important to know how to work on a team. And I really appreciate what NCL does by providing both games.
What's your favorite, teams or individual?
I would say I like the individual game better because it shows the individual performance. It's something I lobbied for at the beginning of National Cyber League, having a scouting report, having individual performance metrics. I'm a sports junkie. And I do love teams. I do love following teams, but player stats are cool. Yeah. To me, I would love to have kids play in competitions starting in 5th grade or 6th grade and have both, have their teams and their individual stats. So I'd love to ask the audience this question: if they have played in a sport or if they have coached in a sport, was it important for you to know individual performance and team performance, or did you just care about one over the other?
That's a really good point.
That's my question for this call, and maybe we can even do a poll. Do you prefer to coach individuals or teams?
Okay. I actually do have that poll up. So we have one vote in so far, which is great. We typically on these coaches calls have a little bit smaller of a following because obviously there's one coach to many players, right? So, and this is really just the time for the coaches. So, this is where we get together and kind of perfect our techniques. And, I definitely think that your sports analogy is completely, appropriate. If you were to ask the coach of any major NFL team, do you spend more time on the individual or on the play or on the team? Mm-hmm. They would laugh at you because it's both, right? I mean, you have to know the capabilities of every single person on your team and work with them sometimes individually, and then you also have to work with the team, as a whole as well. So, I definitely think that it's not just a matter of preference, but a matter of necessity.
Alan, we have Alan Stubblefield, one of my favorite people in the entire country in cyber. He is one of the top coaches at the high school level in cybersecurity. How many years have you had teams going to the Cyber Patriot finals,
Alan? Let's see. Matt was a junior, about 6 years.
6 years in a row in the Cyber Patriot finals. How many of your teams are in the finals this year?
4.
4 teams from one high school. So
yeah. Troy is definitely a school to watch, from what I understand. Your reputation is certainly preceding you, especially setting some waves in motion here in the National Cyber League. Bringing high schoolers to the competition has really changed a lot of the dynamic, I feel. And just give a quick brief background. Coming straight from Pomona, we've got let's see, you teach at Troy High School, right? And been coaching Cyber Patriot. Cyber Patriot with 2 national titles. And then I also see here that you've been doing middle school teams since 2015.
Okay, quiet.
You do mention that you have some summer cyber camps. I want to get into that a little bit later. And then also, you're expanding this all the way out, right? You're taking this down to the grade levels, that we don't normally see, all the way down to first grade. So that's really fantastic to be able to bring in, cyber at all ages.
Okay, hush. I'm on the phone. Leave the room.
Okay. I want to ask the question that you asked me to Alan.
Okay.
I know that was going to be so difficult.
Alan, do you prefer?
Sorry, I'm trying to do this by my phone.
We'll get him back.
And just have lunch start, so.
We'll get him back. Okay.
And I have no volume. I don't hear you guys.
No, we hear you just fine.
The question is individuals versus teams. Which do you and your students prefer, playing on a team or playing as an individual?
Hang on, playing with the.
We can hear you. All right, let's ask Fred.
Okay, sure. Let's see. Fred, I'm going to go ahead and send you an invite here real quick. If you want to join us on the screen, great. If not, then you can just answer in chat.
Okay.
But yeah,
Okay.
Oh, looks like we got Alan back.
All right, I'm here.
All right.
So
Individual versus
the question, Alan, for us today is: do you prefer individual or team play?
I prefer team. My background is as a coach of Cyber Patriot, which is a team sport. And it's really amazing how much more that groups of people can accomplish when they're working together. I've got teams as young as sixth graders, and yes, sixth graders they understand technology, they can learn technology, they work together, they use the right language, the right approaches that the older folks do, and they're less intimidated by what the challenge is.
For National Cyber League, we have both, and your
Right.
students have played both. What do they say about the individual game versus the team game?
Well, I've got a number of really sharp kids that enjoy the individual competition, but and when it comes to NCL, their team approach tends to be, hey, I'm going to take this challenge, you try these challenge. So it's not necessarily 2 or 3 working on the same challenge at the same time. They're trying to divide and conquer.
So we have a high school I'm talking to tomorrow via Zoom. I'm talking to a high school in Washington State. And the faculty member has been coaching Cyber Patriot and other team competitions, but he said his students do not like to play as individuals. What do you say to students who are kind of afraid at the high school level of being in an individual game? I think it's a case, that there's a comfort level on a team that they don't have playing by themselves.
Well, I mean, if you think of Cyber Patriot, there's 3 major categories. You have network security, which we also call Cisco. There's Windows and Linux. So as an individual on those teams in Cyber Patriot, you have to know your own stuff. And that's an individual thing. So how do you learn that? And with NCL, you're developing new skills. So you've got 9 different areas. And so my recommendation is to have students go to the cyber gymnasium and try out things. So certainly everybody can do I'm trying to remember the category.
The open source intelligence, the Google.
Yeah, the open source intelligence. How well can you Google? And so once they're able to solve some of the basics, then my experience is that builds their confidence, and then they'll try something else. So I mean, there's a lot of stuff that NCL offers that Cyber Patriot doesn't even come close to. So it's a chance to expand their cyber data bank.
So Alan, you have a very, very successful program. I'm just curious, do you do any active recruiting, or is it all just kind of word of mouth, or how do you get so many players involved?
our after school competition program started small like everybody else's. We had 5 kids. We made up one team, and we were lost. But they were young kids, and so they came back the second year and they got smarter. And by the time they were in their 3rd year, they made it to nationals. Once you're successful, success invites more people to come. But what was amazing to me was when we first invited middle schoolers in the fall of 2015, I had 5 7th and 8th graders that walked the 3 blocks from the middle school to come to Troy. That was in September. By December, we had 25 7th and 8th graders. You know, so word had gotten around, hey, let's go walk to the high school. And to me, that showed me we were doing something worthwhile, because these kids could have walked home. They could have walked to their friend's house, but they walked to the high school. So I think the fact that it's new, that it's techie, that it's important, we make it fun. We have students teaching students, so it's not, and we try to make it as hands-on as we can. So literally it blew up in size probably 2 years ago. And when I look at the numbers in cyberseek.org, you know, we're short 500,000 cybersecurity professionals here in this country. So the kids understand that this can lead to something that's worthwhile, pays well, supports our country. So we try to find ways for everybody to be part of what we're doing. We try very hard not to say no.
Alan, how many students approximately do you have playing NCL this spring?
We're putting the word out. We've started a Capture the Flag club that meets on Tuesdays after school, and we have 40 there. So those are the ones who will definitely be playing, and then we'll see if there's any other interest. So,
what is your coaching strategy for an NCL versus a Cyber Patriot?
Well, they're pretty similar. I open the doors and I let the kids walk in the room, and I've got a couple of really sharp seniors who come in and do a really good job of teaching. So, you know, I'm just the chief herder of all cats.
When you actually are putting together your team, do you have like separate positions on the team? Are there positions for newcomers, freshmen? Are there senior positions, or do you let them kind of design their own organization?
Our approach is this is open to anybody and everybody. No prior experience is needed. And then, you know, with NCL, you start off as an individual, and then after you get put into your gold, silver, or bronze tiers, then they start looking around the room to find out others with similar tier to think about making up a team. But I'm not involved. The kids work that out themselves.
What would you say? Go ahead, John.
I was just going to say, in sports, sometimes you have like players that join during the middle of the year, kind of like walk-ons. Do you have walk-ons, or do you they are there like from the first day?
Again, we're very, very open. So when I started the year in August, that first Thursday, we had a lunchtime informational meeting with cyber, and I had a high school freshman walk up to me and said, "I'm a hacker. I don't want to do Cyber Patriot. I want to do capture the flags, and I'm better than all of your kids here at Troy." Okay, so here, let's go have you talk to some of my seniors and let's see what you really know. But he did compete in Cyber Patriot, and he was not a hacker, but he is going to be playing in NCL. But then I also have the other part where I've got kids that have never ever done this before. They can barely spell capture the flag, and you know, but they want to go try it out.
So how many competitions besides the NCL does your team compete in then?
So I've got at least one team in Radford's CTF right now. We've made the national finals the past 2 years for the NYU Seesaw, and then Cyber Patriot. So, but we're always the kids are always looking for more CTFs to play in.
So what is it that the National Cyber League brings that those other competitions don't?
You have a cyber gymnasium. The NCL competition, I think, is much better structured. People understand what it's going to be. There's not confusion about how it's going to start and when the dates are and when the times are. Yesterday, Radford CTF started, and my team captain is like, I don't have credentials yet, and I'm like, well, I don't have them either. A couple hours later, the email came in. So that's the nature of I think most CTFs. So NCL is a step above.
What would you say to someone who says, I'll play NCL, but I'm going to skip the individual game because I only want to play in a team?
How are you going to bring any talent to a team? You've got to play individual so that you can show others that you have skills.
So the individual game will give you preparation to play effectively in the team game.
Yes, and one of the things that's different from Cyber Patriot versus National Cyber League is with NCL, the kids are sitting side by side. NCL, the kids aren't even in the same building. They're usually doing this from their home, and they're whatever the social media app de jour is, they're coordinating what their efforts are. But generally speaking, it's like, okay, I'm going to work on the challenges here in open source intelligence. Okay, well, I'm going to do cryptography. So that's generally how the teamwork goes. Just because there's only so much time.
Well, for NCL, you really want your players to develop a strength in at least one area so they can be effective on a team. Kind of like in Cyber Patriot, you want a player to either be good in Linux or good in Windows or good in Cisco, because if they're not,
and you want a team to not be made of people with the same talents.
Right.
Spread the wealth.
Right. So playing in the individual game, you find out which categories you want to really become strong in, and that's what you can focus on in the team game.
Right.
So, Alan, one of the questions that always comes up, especially when we're talking about high schoolers, middle schoolers, bringing them into this cyber world, and especially on the offensive side, is always that of ethics. Ethics always comes up, and we have people that kind of question whether we should be teaching these offensive skills or teaching that the dark side of the force, so to speak, to these younger students. And how do you ensure that ethics are maintained? Do you have like a rules of conduct or an agreement that they sign or anything like that?
I don't have things that are signed, but I mean, I just got a phone call from an assistant principal yesterday who was like, okay, one of your kids is violating our school's acceptable use policy with a BitTorrent app. And so they called the student in and accused her of being a hacker. And, the assistant principal calls me and says, hey, I can't tell if the kids' excuses are valid or if they're just trying to pull the wool over my eyes. And I'm like, well, that student right there is not a gamer, not a hacker. Her explanation of what happened sounds legit, but I'll certainly talk to her. So, I mean, we stress to our kids that, you need to act appropriately, but we also keep an eye on students. High schoolers are always trying to find ways around school filters so they can play games, and so you're like, okay, that's not what we're doing here. And but then at the same time on the ethics, middle schoolers, they understand right and wrong. So, that's really all that it is. And as we introduce people to it, we're like, you're going to learn skills and you need to use them for good. And if you can't do that, you need to go somewhere else. I mean, I've had kids recommended to me because they were hackers. And I'm like, that's not who I'm looking for. So.
We have
are
Fred on the line too. Let's bring Fred into the conversation.
I was just going to say, so Fred is also a high school coach. He coaches, I don't even remember how many girls. You're at an all-girls high school, though, right?
Yeah.
And so the question du jour is we're talking about individual versus team play. Is there one that you like to coach over the other, or do you feel like there's one that works better with your particular coaching style?
I like both. It's good to coach teams because you're likely to get further in the competition and have that sort of bigger sense of success. But for my girls especially, finding their niche, that thing that they really enjoy, that's great and really rewarding with an individual player. So, I mean, I've had seniors pick college majors based on NCL categories. You know, a more forensic-y one or OSINT or that kind of thing.
Right.
From your student standpoint, do they prefer team or individual?
I can't hear a word you're saying there.
Try that again.
Fred, from your standpoint of your students, do they prefer an individual or a team game?
Team.
Yeah.
Absolutely. They love being able to bounce ideas off each other, argue over the more efficient way to solve a problem. They don't actually work as well individually. I don't think they like the isolation, to be honest. They like to have that group feeling.
So how do you get them to play an individual game? Say in NCL, we have the individual game and then the team game. And my understanding is that to be effective in a team game, you should play in the individual game and get used to some of those skills.
Yeah, but the girls tend to focus more on the skills that they like. Mm-hmm. And to develop those skills that they will then bring into the team environment and be a credible part of that team. Mm-hmm. So I don't think the girls will, from my experience, they will not excel in the individual game because they'll be like, oh, I don't like log analysis. That's something that my friend does when we get to the team event. But they will hammer away at what they enjoy.
So this is a question for both you and Alan. It was posted by Eric. I've had some students try NCL, but they did not do very well and did not spend much time in the gym to learn. Any suggestions on how to encourage them, especially girls that may be intimidated?
Oh, I don't suffer from girls' intimidation in it. That they don't. There's no boys to get kind of squashed down by, and they like. I mean, maybe it's just our environment. They like handing the boys issues. I think sorry, I've gone completely off track there. But yeah, our girls don't suffer from intimidation. They like beating the boys just to show that they know what they can do. Mm-hmm. Not being in the gym, incorporate it into your curriculum. Mm-hmm. Give out some assessment grades for completing gym activities.
Yeah.
So
what about you? Do you have girls that are intimidated? Oh, he's offline.
I would say, first of all, as a coach and as a teacher, you determine what success is. So it's not so much about number of points scored. It's like, okay, so you tried that. Did you learn something from it? Is that something that you like? Do you want to learn more? The cyber gym should be a stress-free place to go. I mean, we try to be as supportive to our girls as we can. We've got a separate GTech club, girls who do technology, engineering, and computers. Our summer camps, we have girl-only rooms. So, just giving them a place to start out where they're amongst their peers. So, yeah.
We have one more question here. I think Alan already answered it. Do the students who are participating need to be in the same location? And I believe the answer is no.
No, as long as they can talk to each other.
So I've done a little bit on both sides as far as being in a remote team and participating, and in the same room participating. And there does seem to be a difference in communication. So as a coach, I think it's definitely your role to facilitate that conversation and make sure that your remote users are kind of looped in on what's going on. It can be really difficult to do this kind of geographically dispersed, but not impossible at all. We had a really great team where we had just the key being, of course, just communication, and so I definitely think that both are possible. And as a coach, you definitely need to make sure that you are ensuring that communication is going on.
I would say I would prefer the team event to be in one location. Going back to our common thread of snacks, you can congregate snacks in one location, and it kind of gives more of a team feel to the whole event, because you're in there with the communicating over text or through Discord or something like that is one thing, but being able to turn your laptop and go, look, I what am I missing? And that other set of eyes and the physical presence in the room, I think it helps the whole thing to actually be part of that team.
So you said something that's really kind of key. I want to go back to. You said that as coaches, we define what success is. So what are some of the skills that players have, or what would you define success as a team versus individual?
I think I believe, because I teach high schoolers, and the leaderboard or the scouting report really isn't as important for them as it is for collegiate players. I think, how did you do last time? Can you show me some small level of increase in success? Was there a problem that you bashed your head against and there was just no joy, and this time you managed to get it? Or, did you do a little bit of research? Was there learning? What a shocking concept. Between A and B, did you learn something?
There really is a difference between learning and a score.
Yeah.
You can have a 0 score and have learned a lot.
Yeah. So, if they came out of that with some sense of achievement, the person that came out of that event was different from the person that went in it. Then that to me is a success. And points at high school level, okay, you get bragging rights, whatever, but that's not really what I'm about. It's a journey for me.
So how do you balance then those super competitive players with those that are very timid or just getting started, possibly your freshmen or your first time players? How do you create that balance within a team so that both of them walk away fulfilled?
Well, in my group, it is the people that are the super competitive ones that are there to help. These are people that are competing in your school. They might not be part of your team, and in the team event, obviously that's a completely different kettle of fish. But if a girl is struggling with something, especially gymnasium time, then it's like, no, she knows, she'll help you. And the hyper competitive ones are like, yeah, I can help you. And so they kind of get that feedback that they know what they're doing, and that spills over into other competitions as well. We kind of grandstand teams, and competitions like CyberStart, they require you to grandstand teams, but we kind of make it a community thing that we're all in this together, and this is a journey. When it comes to competition, yeah, you can say, oh, I scored more points or my accuracy was better, but ultimately it's the journey and getting everybody to a better point, because then they're going to pass that on to the people that are coming in, and in a really non-judgmental environment. If someone doesn't know something, I'm the first person to remind the person that does that you didn't know it at some point, so you made that journey, help them make it faster, and then maybe they'll exceed you at some point.
So we talked a little bit about the gym, and we talked about obviously the big show, the competition itself. But just like Dan had kind of alliterated to before, sports teams, they spend a lot of time practicing before they ever get to the actual event. How often do you conduct practices, and what makes an effective training program or training regimen for your girls? A
lot of my girls are kind of self-starters in that they enjoy what they do. So anything that has the word competition or CTF, they will root out just in this kind of thing of developing more skills. That they want to be able to throw themselves at different problems and find it from anywhere. So with the girls who are not as confident, then within the school we have like a flex period in the middle of the day, well actually in the morning. So my door is always open. If you want to come in and chat about an issue that you've got, then they can just pop in and I'll drop what I'm doing in an attempt to say, hey, yeah, okay, let's go through this. This is a problem we've seen before. And our learning management system has everything on it, links to tools, methodologies, that kind of thing. We document everything that we do. And another reason to get the team physically in one place is to make sure that no one's on the learning management system during team competition. Because there is a wealth of methods that are up there for different competitions. Pico, Girls Go Cyberstar, all of those are up there, which could be levered, I guess, and that would put you in a dubious gray area with NCL, and I definitely don't want that.
I think there's an important quality that's needed for playing in these competitions, and it relates to what Fred is saying about being self-starters. You have to have fun doing this stuff because you do spend a lot of time on it to get good. And so if it's something you don't enjoy, if you treat it like going to class, I don't think it works. But if you embrace it as a cool extracurricular activity, which band or theater or any sport has, then I think you embrace the time to practice. But
So
it can't be like a traditional class.
Yeah, so you bring up a really good point there, actually, as far as treating this like an extracurricular. And I'd like to kind of get maybe a little insight about what your school does to support your program, or what a good school could do to support a program more. Because I think that there sometimes is a disconnect in that we just treat it like an after-school activity, and it's a threat to academics, because if they're doing this, then they're not doing that. So how can you kind of get more support, or what kind of support does your school offer?
Well, I remember a conversation I had with my principal, who's now left, about I really want to teach a cybersecurity program, and it's like, it's like, do we want a group of hackers running around the school? And then we started to have success in competitions, and you start to raise banners. And then suddenly it's seen as a very, very valuable promotional thing for the school, especially because I'm in Delaware, there's not a lot of that going on in Delaware. So it was seen as a really good differentiator. Then you get buy-in from above. Suddenly your students are deciding to go into college, to major in this field. And then you're seen as getting value added towards the school. And that's really how you've got to promote it. You're adding value to the school as a whole, not you're teaching your students how to break into your learning management system and change their grades. So I've been very lucky that I inherited a Cyber Patriot team, and we've had a lot of success. So that's kind of built momentum going forward. So we're seen now as a very, very, in fact, we're clubbed in kind of with the sports. So we're seen as a very, very good addition to the school environment for a group of, I've always called IT the home of the disaffected, because we will accept anyone. If you have the urge to learn, we'll accept anybody. We're the most diverse club in the whole school.
How fast you run, it's not how far you hit a ball. It's what you have between your ears and the way you can do that with others.
Absolutely. And that means students that wouldn't have normally succeeded in team-based events have warmed because there's no judgment. They're there because they know something or they can do something. And that's really, again, I think administration in the school has seen that and seen like these people have their place now, and and that aids the school community. But you do need to dispel the myth that you are creating a group of evil hackers that are going to tear the school network down and do all sorts of unspeakable things. And that comes from the coach being able to say, look, no, I trust these people, and that being heard from above.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned before the importance of snacks.
Snacks.
Bringing students back over and over again. Are there any other unique team building activities that you do other than just practicing game?
We did a Christmas event, which was a "Can you help Santa?" and we did so it was lock boxes. They were picking locks. Not that administration knew that. And then there was some forensics on empty flash drives. And then there was running around the school, finding QR codes. So we do kind of off the cuff events as well that are they're kind of leaning towards tech. I have to do that to justify the purchase. But it's not your run of the mill stuff.
I want to mention an event that Alan has with Troy. He has an annual banquet. He has a cyber banquet at the end of the year. The parents come, the alumni come. But I was at the last one. It is so cool. To me, it's as good as any sports banquet that a high school has. And to really bring your program to that level where you have a banquet to celebrate what you did during the year and the competitions, it's one of the coolest things I've seen.
Funnily enough, if we win state at Cyber Patriot, the girls go to the Cheesecake Factory.
Ooh.
Now, this has become a ridiculous tradition now. I don't even like cheesecake, so I don't know why I go. But the school pays for the girls to go. And this is not just the winning team. It's all competitors. And I think it's more to them now than the state title. It's just the Cheesecake Factory trip.
Have a place where you can go to really bond and reminisce and enjoy and do everything that any other activity does.
Yeah, and our alum always like seeing, the ones that are still seeing that the program's going from when were here. They love seeing the press releases that the school puts out, and it gets buy-in as well because the alum are like cheering them on, so that they know that they're part of this ongoing thing that has a root, and they contributed, and then they moved on to major in cyber or forensics or something else, and then they are passing back. So that the Cheesecake Factory is if I stop that, there would be a riot. We want a state title. We want cheesecake. It seems to be the way it goes.
All right, so we're actually getting ready to wrap things up. We like to keep these somewhere around a half an hour to 45-minute mark. I know a lot of you are joining us on your lunch hour, or possibly you'll be watching this later as the broadcast is ended and it archives and it becomes available for offline viewing. So I'd just like to, definitely thank Alan for joining us, and thank you again, Fred, for joining us, and of course, Dan. We always appreciate you having you on the show, getting a window right into the commissioner's office, so to speak. That's a really great tool for coaches. So definitely, we love the content. We love getting more coaches on these calls. And I'm not sure exactly how to do that, but we definitely appreciate those that do tune in during your lunch hours or during your breaks. I know it's definitely appreciated by other coaches as they hear your voices and get advice from coach to coach. So I go ahead and kind of give a little bit of time for Fred to give his last minute advice for coaching individuals versus teams, and then hand it over to Dan to take us home.
Well, thank you, John, and thank you, Fred, and thanks to Alan. This has been a great conversation today. I really think a coach is critical, but not the way a classroom or a teacher is. The coach is the one that kind of facilitates and creates the environment where the kids thrive. So I look forward to having more coaches to share their wisdom, and really appreciate being on the call today.
I think, going back to the topic, coaching in general should be an enjoyable experience for both. I mean, I'm coaching because I can't compete. So I'm kind of living vicariously through my students in this and seeing their successes. And again, coaching individuals is good, but my personal preference is coaching the team, just to see the team getting together, having fun, having arguments, eating far too much pizza, and drinking caffeinated drinks. I mean, this is the stuff that I would have wanted to have done in high school and in college, and I couldn't because it didn't exist. So that's why I'm coaching, basically, because I can't do this and I want to. It's not fair.
I love it. Thank you so much.
Your team success as a coach, so you are very valuable.
That's the point. You know, I am deriving that because I am now almost an enthusiastic competitor in the room.
Yeah,
I'm as enthusiastic as I can be about them being enthusiastic about this event, and I think that helps. That breeds enthusiasm towards it.
All right, thank you. So our next week we're going to be talking about how to find coaching resources, and I'm definitely looking forward to that conversation. Thanks again for joining us, and thanks to all those in the audience as well.
Thanks all.
All right.
Bye.
I hit the button.
It still says live.
I'm going out. Bye.
It doesn't want to let you out.
It doesn't want to let me call.
Can we edit? Should we just drop?
I guess so, yeah. I'm not sure what happened here.
Bye all.
All right, thanks.
No worries.